My name is JD and this is my channel Frost and Forest. And so today I'm really excited because I am going to be doing a tag, kind of a tarot tag, but it's also kind of a book tag. So it is going to be slightly different content for me, sort of. Basically, I was watching Nicole, a Cottage Witch's channel, and she did a tag that was originally a book tag called Spring is in the Air. And what she did is she both did it for books and decks. And so even though I haven't really done any content on my channel before related to books, once I saw this, I got really excited about it, and I started thinking about books and I started thinking about decks. And so I decided to do both books and decks the way she did. Also, I'm going to, on the side, put in timestamps, so you'll be able to, look at the books if you're interested, or you'll be able to look at the decks, or if you're interested in both, then you can just watch the video normally. But I just want to give folks options. So the first prompt is Spring Chicks. Name a book that made you feel warm and fuzzy. So this was a super easy one for me. Throughout this, I'll do the books first, and then I will talk about the decks. And so for Spring Chicks, I am going to have to go with House on the Cerulean Sea. This was a deck, or not a deck. This is a book that I really love. It makes you laugh. It makes you cry. It's just in general a good book. And at the end, you definitely feel like warm and fuzzy inside. And so I definitely recommend this book. It's a fiction book. It's very good. And so the deck that I have to go along with that is going to be the Little Ghosts Oracle. And because the prompt was what makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside, I explicitly chose this one instead of the tarot, because this deck always makes me warm and fuzzy inside. And it is kind of an all year round deck. It shows all the seasons, so it does sort of have a spring vibe to it. But yeah, this deck is just sweet when I need, that's so cute. When I need just something, a deck that's easy to read and that's not going to be mean. This is a good deck, and it definitely makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. Look at that card. It's just so cozy and cute. So yeah, this is my Spring Chicks deck. And I'll end on a nice spring card. Next prompt is April Showers or Spring Showers. A book that is set near or on the water, or that has water, the word water in the title. And so for this one, I chose the book Hudson Bay Bound. This was a really great book. I really enjoyed it. It was a pretty quick read, but it is about two women who, after they graduated from college, decided to follow the same route from Minneapolis to the Hudson Bay, as you can see on this map right here. That the book that came out, I think it was 1935, that was called Canoeing with Cree. So basically these two women, one of them is Natalie Warren, the author of this book, and the other one is Anne Bancroft. They basically followed the same route that they had followed in Canoeing with Cree. And it was just, this is a really great book. The imagery is really great. The being a person is really great, if that makes sense. Basically, what they were doing was really hard, and sometimes it was hard on both of them together, and sometimes it made their relationship hard, but also they navigated that as a team. And so it's a good book. made me want to get out and canoe more. And there were definitely some, you know, nail biter moments there, but it's a really good book. So this is my choice for April Showers. And then the deck that I chose for April Showers is the Great Lakes Oracle. This is a really beautiful deck. Whenever we go up north, once a year or a couple of times a year, we always end up on the North Shore in Minnesota. And so I always like to bring this deck along because it has that Great Lake vibe. It is a very watery deck, and it just, cherries, I love, you know, here in Wisconsin we have the Door County cherries. I love them. And so this is a very watery deck for me, but I also think it kind of fits because it is sort of a local water deck for me. And so I wanted to share it because not only does it show the coast, but it also shows some of the environment around the coast, some of the animals in the Great Lakes. So yeah, this was my choice for April Showers, and this is the Great Lakes Tarot, or Great Lakes Oracle. So then the next prompt is spring break. Talk about a time when you took a break from reading and why. And so I'll talk about this for both books and for tarot. Related to books, similar to what Nicole said in her video, when I was in grad school, I was doing a lot of reading of scientific papers every day, a lot of reading on, you know, trying to keep up with current things in my field. And so honestly, I was doing a lot of, you know, thinking at that time. And so I didn't really have, you know, when I got home after working a long day as a grad student, I kind of just wanted to veg out. And so I did not read as much during that time. That was one of my spring breaks of reading. As far as spring break for decks, the times that I tended not to use tarot or oracle decks for an extended period of time was after people passed away in my family. Since I've kind of come back to tarot, there have been a couple deaths in my family, and, you know, after that, a lot of, you know, just for whatever reason, I just wasn't feeling it as much. It felt like a lot of work to use tarot cards, and, you know, that's not really why I use them. I want it to be fun. I want it to be helpful. I want it to be something that I want to do. So, you know, when family members have passed away, that has kind of been the time that I have sort of taken a break from it, and then kind of slowly come back as it feels more comfortable again. Okay, on that not so happy note, we are going to move on to the next prompt, which actually is a good one, is Swallow's Homecoming, a book or an author you always go back to for comfort. As far as books go, for me, it's an author, and it is the Victoria Thompson murder mysteries. And this is kind of a great one because she, in general, has one book that comes out roughly every year. And so there's always a new Victoria Thompson book for me to come back to. But I find these books really, they're interesting, they're fun, I like the characters, I like the sort of world building that she does in the past. And they're also not too hard to read. It's always something that I'm looking forward to, and it's always something that I find comforting and nice to pick up a good Victoria Thompson book. She has like something like, I don't know, maybe like 20 of them now. I have stopped buying them. I bought them in the beginning, and then there were a lot of them, and then I kind of decided that's what libraries are for, so I didn't need to keep buying them. So I have a few of the earlier ones, but yeah, she's a great author, and if you're looking for a fun, light read, mystery type thing, I would go with Victoria Thompson. For my deck that falls into the Swallow's Homecoming, I am going to have to go with the Creatures Oracle deck. This is one of my very favorite Oracle decks ever. I find it really easy to use. I love the creatures, and this deck, I find it comforting a lot. And you know, it's pretty straight with me, but like, you know, I've gotten this love card before when I needed that. I've also gotten this anger card when, you know, it was clear that I kind of needed to be angry. And so I do just find this deck very comforting. I love it a lot. This is the second edition of it. So beautiful. And I will just say, if you are interested in this deck, and you watch this video soon after it comes out, she is currently doing a Kickstarter right now where you can get this deck if you want. The creator is Sarah Kathleen, and this deck is available a lot, but not all the time. So I would definitely check out her Kickstarter. But I just love this deck. I love the textures. I love the keywords. They're super clear to me. And I love the feeling that each of these cards evokes. Like this vulnerability card. You know, being a little one out on the edge. That does feel very vulnerable. So yeah, this is a deck that I come back to a lot, and I find very comforting. So this is my Swallow's Homecoming pick. The next prompt is Blooms, a book that started slowly but blossomed to be one of your favorite reads. This is my choice for books for Blooms. This book, so I got this book from a good friend for my birthday, and he got it for me because he knew how much I really enjoyed reading Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, and this is the same author that wrote that book. And so I was really excited to get this, and I started reading it, and I literally had no idea what the plot was. It's a very, I don't even know what to say about it. It's a very interesting book. And at the beginning, you were very, very confused. And that's partially because, you know, the main character starting out doesn't have a lot of context for the world they're in. And so you, as the reader, don't get very much context from them. But it was honestly not until like page 200 that I kind of started to fully understand what the plot of this book was. And then it got amazing really, really fast. And so, you know, there were many times that I thought about not finishing this book. There were many times that I was like, I don't know. But because a friend gave it to me, which I'm really glad it worked out that way, I was like, okay, I'm going to push through. I'm going to read this book because it was a present. And I'm really glad that I did. So if you're ever thinking about this reading this book, give it time. It's really good. For my deck that I'm choosing for Blooms is the Earthbound Oracle. I just got this deck pretty recently, and this deck has been out for a while, and I've looked at it. I've thought that, you know, the fact that it's on wood is kind of cool. But I've always said that I've always thought that Oracle decks that don't have a guidebook don't often work for me super well, and this doesn't come with a guidebook. And some of the keywords are a little bit you know, their objects instead of something like Terra, instead of something like home, which is a easier to use keyword. And so for a long time I put off getting this deck, and then someone had it on sale and I kind of decided I wanted it, and I'm really glad that I did, because I really like this deck. It has been pretty intuitive for me to use, even without a guidebook. And so now I really love it, and I've been using it a lot, just kind of pulling it in when I want a little bit more information about whatever reading I'm doing. So yeah, this is my bloom, because it took me a while to decide to get it, and I was really unsure about it, but now I really like it. Next prompt is eggs in a basket. 3 books you want to read this spring. First book that I would like to read this spring is this one, Trees and Woodland in the British Landscape. And so part of the reason I want to read this book is I recently discovered that there is a whole area of history that would really interest me that I never really thought about before. And for my job, I went to a couple of presentations online. I went online to a couple of presentations about this topic. And I got really excited, because basically there are historians out there who study like the history of managing woodlands and managing forests. And so I went to some really interesting talks, and one of the great things about this series were they were looking at different cultures all over the world. So it wasn't just a European-centric view, but it was also other cultures and indigenous views on managing forest in the past and all of that. But this was recommended as one of the great books to read if you're interested in the topic of European history around managing woodlands. And so this is one of the books that I would like to read. And that kind of connects actually, so I guess I'm doing this in a different order. That kind of connects actually with one of the decks that I want to use. This is the Folkloric Forest Tarot. I just got this one in like this week. It was a Kickstarter that I backed. And so this is definitely one that I wanted to use. And I thought it was kind of funny and matched the book that I wanted to do, because this does kind of have a historical view on nature and forest. And so I thought it was kind of funny that they kind of match each other. But this is a beautiful deck that I'm so excited that I have. And I'm so excited to start working with it and to find pairs for it. It has such a beautiful forest vibe. And the art just feels so deep. You know, some fine art decks like this, it feels like they don't, you know, you can kind of tell that it's someone taking a piece of art and putting it into a card, whereas these feel like they were meant to be these cards. And so it's just so beautiful. And this, part of the reason why I connect it to the book that showed you as well is because one of the things that they talked about in these presentations is that a lot of the managing of woodlands that happened in Europe was around hunting and giving rich people the capacity to be able to hunt and have the space. And so, you know, this hunting aspect of it also kind of connects the book that I want to work with and the deck that I want to work with. So, you know, any of you tarot people out there, if you have ways that you work with the decks and books together, I would be excited to hear your ideas, because this deck and the Oliver Rackham book just kind of seemed to fit together. And I will say, you know, this is based on a Finnish art style, whereas, you know, Oliver Rackham was in looking at Britain, but, you know, it's both European, so they kind of connect. The next one that I want to work with also kind of matches. So I have the guidebook from Nellie's deck. And the reason I kind of count this as a book is because in this guidebook, you have, of course, the meanings that relates to the cards, but then you also have these letters, or not letters, but like diary entries from this character, Nellie, who supposedly created this deck. And so I would like to read the story because I've heard from a lot of people that have connected with this deck that it is really great and amazing. And so I want to do that. And so that is one of my goals, is to get through the story as well as be able to work with this deck this spring. Because I have worked with this deck a little bit as, you know, it's a tarot / Lenormand / playing card deck. But I would like to work with it in the context of the story about Nellie. So this is a very simple deck, but I really like it. And it's small, so it's easy for me to shuffle. I also like that it has sort of a coastal feel because, you know, part of the point is that Nellie manages a lighthouse. And so this deck should have a very coastal feel to it. So yeah, this is one of the eggs in my basket. Last book that I want to try to read this spring is the Serviceberry, Abundance and Reciprocity in the Natural World. This came out, I think, in November. I have read her other books, Braiding Sweetgrass, and then she has one, oh, I'm blanking on what it's called, but it's about moss and gathering moss. There we go. And so her books are always great. They always give a different perspective on nature that I think is important for people who work in natural resources to think about, that there are other viewpoints and there are other types of knowledge, including traditional ecological knowledge. And so I'm really excited to explore this book more. I've heard it's really good. I've heard it's a pretty quick read, so I'm pretty confident that I will be able to get it done. First deck that I want to try to work with this spring that is an egg in my basket is the Enchanting Earth Tarot. So this one doesn't really connect to the Serviceberry. It's just kind of a beautiful animal deck. But I haven't used this one much yet. And so I want to use it because I think it's really pretty. I think it can be a good spring deck, even if it does have sort of wintry themes like the star card. It's also interesting. A lot of times I have issues with decks that feel too much like a zoo, meaning they have nature from different parts of the world all together in a deck. But I think because this deck is so beautiful and it feels like a painting, it doesn't bother me as much as it has for some other decks. So yeah, this is one, oh, that's so pretty. So this is one that I also want to work with this spring. So we're getting to the end of this. We've just got a couple more prompts. So the next one is Green Pastures, a classic that never gets old. So, You know, in general, I was trying to think about things that may be related to spring. But for me, when I think about books and classics that never get old and that I come back to again and again, the first one that came to mind is A Christmas Carol. And so I know it's not very springy, but this is a classic that I read every Christmas. I love it. It makes me cry every Christmas. But for me, it's just a tradition. And last Christmas, I was given this version as a present. So I knew about John A. Rice because he did the Mindscapes tarot deck, but he came out with a version of the Christmas Carol. And so I have not actually, let's see if I can do this. There we go. I have not actually read this version yet. I have another version of this book, but I was really excited to get this one because I think the art in it is beautiful, and I'm looking forward to reading it next year when it comes time to Christmas time. So this is kind of a cheat. It's not exactly a Christmas one, but when it comes to a classic that I reread a lot, this is the one for me. Decks, again, this one is also kind of a cheat, but this is the Cosmovisions Oracle. And so I completely understand this is not a superly old deck, but I will say that I got this deck pretty early in reconnecting with tarot. So for me, it is kind of a classic in that way, that I've had it longer than some of my other decks. And it is a deck that I just come back to over and over again. And it does kind of have a spring vibe to it. At least parts of it do. So this is the one I decided to show. I understand, you know, you probably could have gone like RWS with this one, or Thoth, or some of those classic decks out there. Those are just not decks I really come back to very often. And so for me, this deck is a classic that I come back to over and over again. And I know this is technically called a Oracle deck, but I kind of consider it a tarot deck because it has 78 cards and they match traditional tarot, kind of. But yeah, I really love this deck and I think it's great. And I honestly just kind of like going through it and looking at it. So yeah, this is my choice for Green Pastures. And also, doesn't this seem kind of like a Green Pastures deck with like trees in it and cities? I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna stop flipping through this deck even though I really like it. Yeah, so that's my choice for Green Pastures. The prompt that I'm gonna do is Pollen. And it is a book or author you're allergic to. And so for me, when it comes to books these days, I would say that I am allergic to Neil Gaiman. This was an allergy that has only kind of come up recently-ish, but yeah, I'm not gonna say a whole too much about it, but yeah, that's my choice for allergy. And then as far as decks, and I just want to say this out loud, please, you know, I'm not trying to criticize anybody's decks. I am not trying to, you know, this is just my opinion. And I think that, you know, if you like this deck, then that's great. And you should keep liking that deck. We all have different perspectives. We all have different things that we like about decks. So I'm not in any way trying to criticize this deck or criticize anyone who likes this deck. And so I say all that because it's kind of hard for me to say a deck that I'm allergic to. because I know that people put a lot of time and effort into creating these things, and so that feels a little harsh to me. But that said, so the deck that I'm going to show you is the Happy Tarot. I know a lot of people love this deck, and I'm not in any way trying to criticize them. This deck is so sweet that it is almost too sweet for me. I can't handle this level of sweetness. And, you know, don't get me wrong, I like sweet decks. I showed the little ghost oracle deck. But for this, it's just not one that I can use. I still have it because I drew on some of the cards, and so I don't really feel like it's fair to give this deck to anybody. So it's just kind of been sitting at my house. But I don't really use it because it's a little bit too sweet for me. But yeah, so I know, like I said, I know there's a lot of people out there that really like this deck, and so that is great. But this is, I guess, a deck that I'm quote unquote allergic to, even though I feel bad saying that. So in the book prompt, there is another prompt that you can do. It's a bonus prompt, and it is Equinox. Find 2 books on your shelf that have the exact same number of pages and talk briefly about them. I didn't really want to do that, and I also didn't really want to do that with my decks, because obviously all tarot decks, in theory, I guess unless there's bonus cards, all tarot decks have 78 cards. Like the same way Nicole did, I have it included on the side if that's something you're interested in doing, but that is not something that I'm interested in doing. So thank you so much for joining me for this tag. I know it's not completely tarot content, but when I saw it, I just got really excited because I do read quite a bit, and so it was a great way to kind of bring in some of my book interests as well. And if you couldn't tell by now, I'm kind of a nerd about forests, so yeah. Anyway, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see y'all next time.